We would like to welcome you back to our Team Tuesdays webinar series. My name is Kristen Lenig, and I am the Central Field Director for Special Olympics Pennsylvania. I will be your host today during this webinar. My teammate, Haley Fuzak, who is the SOPA Marketing and PR Manager, will be operating the presentation. And joining our team today is our athlete co-MC, Jennifer Bottomley. Jennifer is a global messenger, an athlete representative, and a member of the Adams County Athlete Leadership Team. She has been a SOPA athlete for 15 years and participates in powerlifting, golf, and bowling. Now, some of her SOPA highlights include competing in bowling at the 2010 USA Games in Nebraska, being a co-MC for the 2019 Fall Fest opening ceremonies, and serving on the inaugural Indoor Winter Games Committee. Throughout the pandemic, Jennifer has stayed connected with SOPA by participating in virtual Fall Fest, the Sona Strides Challenge, and now the Fitness Heptathlon. Everyone, please welcome Jennifer.
Good evening, everyone. It is my pleasure to serve as a co-MC for tonight's Team Tuesday webinar. I would like to remind everyone that on this webinar, your microphones will be muted, but we encourage everyone to have their video cameras on.
At the end of our presentation, we will have a brief time for questions. Now, these questions should be submitted through the chat box, and the presenter will be able to answer them. As a reminder, this webinar will be recorded, and a link will be sent out later.
As you all know, the purpose of this webinar series is to connect with all of you and share helpful and motivational content to continue our mission. Thank you to everyone for joining us tonight.
We are very excited to welcome Dr. Susan Wiley, who is a psychiatrist, formerly of Lehigh Valley Health Network in Allentown, PA. She co-founded the Lehigh Valley Health Network Center for Mindfulness 20 years ago and has been training students, community members, and hospital personnel in mindfulness for all these years. She has written and taught about mindfulness to many different audiences, and she continues to lead the center in her semi-retirement.
Tonight, Dr. Wiley will discuss mindfulness, the benefits it produces, and lead several mindfulness exercises to demonstrate those benefits. But first, we would like to kick off this webinar by hearing from Matt Aaron, who is President and CEO of Special Olympics Pennsylvania.
Oh, Matt, I think you're muted. Oh, hang on, Matt.
No,
there we go.
That's the hardest part, getting unmuted. Hi, everybody. Good evening. It's great to see everybody. One of the nice things about the different format tonight is the ability to go scan through the gallery and see all of your faces. So it's great to see so many of you with us tonight. As you can see from my picture, I am wearing my Christmas sweater. We had our staff holiday party today. As I look around Zoom land out there, I'm a little bit disappointed that the rest of the staff who are on the call don't have their sweaters on. But Zach, I'm proud of you. I see yours. Nice job. And Brittany, I see you've got your plunge shirt on. That's awesome. So it's great to see all of you with us tonight, folks from around the state. I know we've got a great program in store tonight. This has been a crazy year. I don't have to tell you guys that. It's been difficult. It's been challenging. There have been so many difficult things happening this year, and it's hard to believe it's been going on now for almost 10 months. So I know it's been a long and difficult year. Hopefully tonight you're going to hear some tips that will be helpful. But as we come to the end of this year, I know that despite how hard it's been and the many challenges, we still have many, many things to be thankful for. And one of the things that I'm thankful for is all of you. So I hope all of you will take the time to pause as we approach the end of the year and just reflect on the many blessings that we do have And my wish for all of you as we head into 2021 is that we go into the new year full of hope and optimism, that 2021 is going to be a great year for all of us. So my best to all of you for a great holiday season and a great 2021. Thank you for being part of the Special Olympics Pennsylvania family. And now let's get on with tonight's program. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt, for those kind remarks. Back to you, Jennifer.
It is now my pleasure to welcome Dr. Wiley. I hope everyone is excited to learn about and practice mindfulness.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. I really appreciate that great introduction. It's really a pleasure to be here, everyone, and great to see you all here. I'm going to be talking about mindfulness tonight, and what this is a strategy that can help you learn how to bounce back. And I don't know what you think about bouncing back, but I think that bouncing back, let me just show a quick slide of bouncing back. Didn't share my screen properly, hang on. Get that in just a second, share the screen. Here we go. So bouncing back is this idea that we can, when you get knocked down, what happens when you bounce back? You just get to stand right back up. So that's what we mean by the word resilience, is your ability to bounce back. And you've all had a tough year, as we all have. And so we want to learn. Mindfulness is a great strategy for learning how to bounce back. So we're going to talk about that tonight. So we're going to talk a little bit about what is stress and what is mindfulness. And we'll talk about resilience or bouncing back. And then we'll think about how we can use it in our training to bounce back when things don't go our way. All right. So the first thing that we're going to do, Jennifer likes my slide. I'm going to show my slide of the dancing frogs. Let's go. Let me see here. This idea that we can all be dancing frogs, okay? So you like those dancing frogs? I think they look very happy. And so mindfulness is a strategy to use our mind to pay attention to just what's happening right now in the moment. And sometimes moving our body helps us to do that. So everybody, it's hard to stand up. So we're going to do this in our chairs, okay? And you can see me. And let's just breathe in and raise our arms up.
Oh, I couldn't do it because I'm on.
All right. And then as we breathe out, we'll bring our arms down. Very simple, okay? Everybody can do that. So breathing in, we'll raise our arms up. Really stretch those hands out in different directions. Feel what it feels, maybe wiggle those fingers, just like a dancing frog. And then as you exhale, bring the arms down. Great. And so we want to pay attention to what it feels like in the body to do this. So one more time, we're going to breathe a big breath in. Reach those arms up, wiggle the fingers. See what it feels like in the arms and the shoulders. Wiggle the fingers. What does it feel like in your thumbs and your pinkies and all the fingers in between? Really reach up and stretch. And this time we're going to reach over towards the left side and just sort of bend to one side. See what it feels like on that side that's stretched. And then as you inhale again, both arms up, wiggle your fingers. And now let's bend over to the right side and see what it feels like on the left side as we stretch that side of the body. And then breathe in again. Wiggle those fingers. And this time we're going to reach over, we're going to bend over to the left, and we're going to look up at the hand. Oh, look up at your hand and the waving in the sky there. And what does that feel like in the neck and the head? And one more time, breathe up and then bend over to the right and look up at that left hand. See what it feels like in the head and the neck. And then breathing up, both hands up again one more time. And then as you breathe out, let the arms come down. And just notice what you feel like in your body. Just notice, does it feel like relief when you bring your hands down?
Mm-hmm.
And see if you notice anything in your fingertips when they were up so high, and how does it feel now that they're sitting at rest? So mindfulness is about paying attention to just what's happening right now. And let's try and do another exercise. So can you just think about just pausing for a moment? And what I mean by pausing is like stopping whatever else you might be doing and just pay attention to how it feels to be sitting in your chair right now, how it feels in your body. Maybe you notice your feet on the floor. Maybe you notice the sensations of breathing. Maybe the belly pouches out and comes in as you breathe. Maybe the sides of your body feel differently because you just stretch them. Just seeing what you notice. And then I might just ask you, what did you notice? Did you notice anything? Jennifer, what did you notice?
What are we doing? The first one?
Just what, did you notice anything when you stretched your body right now?
I felt more relaxed.
That's great. Maybe other people felt more relaxed too. Could I see you give a thumbs up if you felt relaxed? Well, great. That's the whole idea, is that mindfulness does help us learn how to deal with stress. So what is stress? What do you know what stress is? What does it feel like in your body when you feel stressed? What do you think, Jennifer? What is stress?
Feeling overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm. And do you ever feel stress in your body?
Mm-hmm.
What does that feel like?
Pressure.
That's good. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people have a lot of different kinds of feelings in their bodies. Sometimes they feel tight in the neck and the shoulders. Sometimes people feel their heart pounding. In their jaw, I'm seeing some people feel tightness in their jaw or their chest, right? Some people feel like when they get stressed, they can't think. Their mind just goes blank. And that can happen too. And sometimes you can't even remember what you were supposed to be doing. Does that ever happen to you when you feel stressed? So stress can really have an impact on the body and the mind. And so, you know, even before there was COVID, there was plenty of stress, right? And now sometimes we feel even more stressed because we can't do the exercise and do the things that we're accustomed to doing.
Yep.
And so learning how to deal with stress can be really, really valuable. I don't know, I've known a lot of people in my life, and I never met anybody that didn't have some kind of stress. And so learning how to deal with that can be really helpful.
Dr. Wiley, we also have some feedback in the chat box. People saying they feel tense or they feel unhappy, and it's frustrating when they feel unhappy because of stress.
That is true. Thank you for those comments. I really appreciate them. And Kristen, keep passing those along. That's really helpful. Yeah, that's really helpful. That's great. So this is a slide about stress, because sometimes a little bit of challenge can be a helpful thing. Like if there's no challenge at all, let's just think about a day where there's nothing to do and no place to go and really not too much energy, and you just don't have much interest in anything. That's not necessarily a very good day when you just don't know why to get, don't don't even feel like getting out of bed sometimes. And do anybody feel that way sometimes, or you just don't feel like moving? So
yes, I do.
You do feel that way. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been really worried about my family most of the time, and I've been getting under stress a lot with this COVID-19 and working. There's a lot of stress.
Yeah, there's a lot of stress with COVID, and a lot of us are worried about our family. So thank you for that comment.
You're welcome.
A little bit of stress, a little bit of challenge can be helpful. And when maybe you feel this when you compete, that a little bit of challenge can test you, and you rise to the occasion, and you feel really good about your performance. Whether you win or lose, just getting out there and competing can make you feel good. And imagine that a lot of you know what that feels like, to get out and run a race or bowl or compete in some way. And just when the challenge is just right, you can feel really good. Did you know about that?
I do.
That's good. That's really good.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes the stress can be overwhelming. And sometimes when the circumstances are such that you just feel like you're almost paralyzed, you can feel really anxious and tense, like we said before, and really can't even think sometimes. So there's sometimes a little bit of stress is good. It feels like a challenge, but sometimes too much can feel overwhelming. So one way that we understand stress is like, it's how much we think a certain situation is going to demand of us, and whether or not we think we're up to the challenge. So a lot about stress has to do with how we think, not what really is, but how we think of the challenge and how we think of our ability to meet that challenge, right? So if we think that we're going to be competing against people that are way better than us, we feel stressed. But if we think we're going to be competing against people where we have a chance to win, that can be really exciting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's all about how we think. It's all about how we think about what the challenge is and what our resources are. Sometimes stress is really in our minds altogether, just what we imagine it to be, like something small, and turns out in our minds it's really big, but when it gets here, sometimes it turns out it's not so bad at all. Has anybody have that experience where you thought something was really big and it turned out it wasn't so bad? It wasn't so bad after all. Yeah.
I did.
Yeah, for
in the
sure.
region when
Oh,
I had
yeah.
it, I
You've
was
had that experience.
I was
That's
sickly. I was diagnosed with a health illness called Crohn's disease, and like I was stressing about coming back to play Special Olympics basketball in 2019, but I had to sit out, and I had to make sure that I rehab myself in the year of 2015 too. I was sickly with it, and I couldn't play sports. I couldn't work out. I was severely with colitis Crohn's disease, and it made me feel frustrated. But I kept imagining me playing sports and rehabbing. But like that's all I could say about the most stress I have experienced it, and I was
Well,
imagining
thank you
that.
for sharing that.
You're
That's
welcome.
really, I appreciate you standing up and talking about your stress, because sometimes when we feel stressed, we feel like we're the only ones that are stressed. Like sometimes we get this idea that we're the only one that's frightened, or we're the only one that's scared, or we're the only one that's struggling. And usually that's not true. Most of the time, a lot of people experience stress, and it's not just us that's experiencing it. But when we think it's only us, it makes the whole thing a lot worse, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's all the whole, everyone's going through this COVID-19.
Yes, it does.
It's getting to be real annoying, and we're like, come on, we want this over and done with for
We
next
sure do.
year. When
We
it's
sure do.
over, I
Yeah.
want it over, because I'm stuck in my group home for monthly. Don't get to go home for Christmas. Don't go home for New Year's. Can't go nowhere. I'm stuck here. My mom comes here, and she goes home. and I can't see to go home and visit my mom and my family. That's how
I
I
feel
feel.
the same way.
So
Before
I feel
COVID-19 ends.
the doctor, can you show us
Sometimes-
some ways that we can manage these?
Yes, I think we can. So let's talk about how we can manage some stress. So one of the things that makes us feel worse in a situation.
Me too. I have to go down for my pill right.
One of the things that makes us feel worse is when we imagine things worse than they really are. Does anybody really, sometimes we imagine things worse than they are. And sometimes we imagine that things are going to be terrible and they turn out not to be so terrible, right?
Mhm.
It happened to me a lot of times.
And sometimes we think if things are terrible, that it's all our fault, that we really messed up and we're really hard on ourselves. And that makes it worse too. So there are a lot of things that we do in our thinking that makes our stress worse. So we got to watch that. So sometimes we get what we might call destructive emotions. These things that make us feel worse when we feel frightened or sad, or we get angry, or we blame people, or we feel bad. Those things all make us feel much worse. And that sometimes happens when we're feeling stressed too. So these are just some pictures of some stress, right? But sometimes there are positive emotions that actually make us feel better. When we feel like we're full of courage, when we can look out for others, when we can laugh at our situation and have something funny occur, and when we can think of ourselves as winners, right?
Yep.
That makes us all feel better. So one of the things that happens when we're mindful is that we can learn to grow our positive emotions and let them really grow strong. So that's one of the things we really want to do, is grow our positive feelings. So there's also negative, destructive behaviors. Sometimes we act without thinking, or we hurt others, or we withdraw, we give up, and we don't want that. But what we do want is to cultivate positive behaviors of being thoughtful, pausing before we act, offering to help others, encouraging one another, just like you're doing tonight, encouraging each other, and remaining engaged, staying with it, even though you feel discouraged. Those are all really helpful behaviors, and they help you, and they also help the other people that receive those benefits. So let's talk a little bit about mindfulness. Whoops. So mindfulness is a way of paying attention to what's happening right now in this moment. And you adopt an attitude of kind of curiosity, like what's here? What's here? It's a moment of pausing and being curious. So I thought we'd practice that right now. Let's just pause, whatever we're doing. We can relax our body. You can bring your hands down into your lap and just relax your body and sit back in your chair. And it's a good time to be quiet and listen to, maybe even listening to what the sounds are in the room around you. Maybe you hear other people that you live with, or the sounds of people moving around. Maybe you hear mechanical sounds like fans or heaters going on, the computers buzzing. So just really listening to the sounds that you hear right now besides my voice. Maybe there's music. And then you can also bring your attention to your body. Like, where are you feeling any tension right now in your body? Do you feel tension in your face, your jaw, or your neck, or your hands? Do you feel tension in your feet or your belly? Or do you feel relaxed? Can you feel your breath moving in your body? Taking a moment to just sense the breath, maybe even putting a hand on your belly right now and seeing if you can feel the breath, feeling the sensations of the breath moving in your body. Let's just pause there for a moment and see if you can breathe. Feel the sensations of breathing. It's kind of quiet, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And you might feel the tension in your body lessening just a little bit. And you might just notice what is present, like what is here for you? What is here with curiosity? Maybe there's something here right now in your body or in your environment that you hadn't noticed before. So let's see, does anybody notice anything? You can unmute yourself for a moment and just say what it is you notice.
I hear like a cuckoo clock going off in the background. I'm not sure.
Oh, how funny. A cuckoo clock. That's great. What else do people notice?
I hear the car was drove in while I was in the house.
Great, wonderful. Yeah, Gerald.
I can hear our dog snoring.
Wonderful. Okay. What else?
I can hear a dog barking.
Uh-huh.
I heard.
Chloe, what did you hear?
I hear my fan running and it calms me down as I get stressed. Because as I get stressed, I get a whole lot of people calling me and telling that I told them that I'm not available because I have way too much to do. And it just really stresses me out.
Okay,
and
so that's why we're here,
take...
Chloe. That's exactly why we're here. We're gonna just pay attention to just what's here right now. We're gonna let go. And that you made a really good point. So let's go of the things that are worrying us right now and just
Dr.
be
Wiley?
here. Yes.
I hear like, sometimes I hear faint things going downstairs.
Uh-huh. Okay.
I felt my shoulders coming down a little.
Great. So there's a lot of, I think we can mute folks now, Kristen. And so there's a lot of different experiences that we're having. And the idea of mindfulness is to pay attention, not to what we're worried about. It's actually a way to let go of worry and to just pay attention to what we notice right now. So we can notice things with our hearing, like we did listening. We can notice things with our eyes. We can look around and see all of our friends in the squares. We can notice feeling sensations in the body, like the breath moving. And so mindfulness is pausing and relaxing and noticing. Is there anybody that can't do that? Show me a hand. I think it can be difficult, but I bet that everyone here can pause and relax and just notice what's here. So I think everyone can do this, even though it feels a little bit different and a little bit challenging sometimes. I think we can all do it. And so mindfulness, when we learn how to pause and relax, can sometimes help us perform better as athletes too. Because what happens when the mind is calm? Can we focus on the job ahead with more clarity? Right? Because if we're having thoughts like, I can't do this, or I don't know how to do this, or I'm not going to succeed, all those thoughts can really get in the way of just doing our best, can't they? So it helps us to focus. It helps us to notice things that we might not otherwise see because we're so worried. What's in our mind, we're so worried we don't even notice what's here. We might notice things better if we're pausing and relaxing and being curious. And sometimes when we pause and relax with curiosity, we can notice what's here that we can really appreciate. Even though we might be stressed, there might be things here right now in every one of your lives that you really, really appreciate. Maybe it's your kitten, or your dog that's snoring, or your coach that's around, your parents, or a friend. Maybe you're looking forward to the snow that's coming tomorrow. Maybe you just feel happy to be seeing your friends tonight, even though we're all struggling with isolation. So when we pause and we relax, we can notice things that we feel grateful for. And maybe now would be a good time to unmute Kristen, and let's see what people can offer about what they might feel grateful for right now. I'm really wondering.
One of the first ones that came in was friendship.
Lovely.
Which I know we talked about as well. Family.
Beautiful.
You guys are unmuted if you want to speak up or type it in the chat box.
Gerald, you had your hand up. What did you want to say?
To try and get cats in before the snow comes.
Yes, to get the cats in when the snow comes. Good idea. Right.
Your pets.
Your pets. So nice. Don't they give us so much company? Our furry animals, right?
That we haven't gotten COVID.
And Zachary, you have your hand up. What did you want to say?
For my health and all my friends and family.
Isn't that wonderful? Right. So we have friends and family. Isn't that great? Aren't we? We're not alone, are we? What did you want to say, Tari? Did you have your hand up?
You can appreciate the families and friends and the coaches, especially the Special Olympics sports program that you compete, and especially like have a good time with some of the special events.
That's beautiful, beautiful. Kim, you have your hand up. What did you want to say? You're muted though. There you go.
I wanted to say I'm grateful for being able to pretty soon fly down to Florida and spend Christmas with my mom and my poppy.
That's lovely. That's lovely. Great. Chloe, you have your hand up. What would you like to say that you feel grateful for?
What I'm feeling grateful for is my parents, my friends like Jennifer Bonnelly or Kristen Lang, and everyone else that is on the chat. And I feel confident about myself, about being on tonight's meeting and meeting you.
Yeah.
That's great. That's wonderful. Really nice. So this is, yes, Catherine, I didn't want to exclude you. What did you feel grateful for?
I like what I'm thankful for is Cooper's point is that I do with friends. And we're still doing that.
That's so great.
A smaller group, and we're doing it on weekends now.
I'm so happy for you. That's just great.
Dr. Wiley?
Yeah.
I feel grateful for having just being on Facebook for the first time, like in my life, having friends on Facebook and having friends that I can care about.
That sounds great. So even though we're isolated and cut off, we can have friends and they feel so supportive, doesn't it? So Kristen, I think we can mute again.
Okay.
And so this is one of the most wonderful things about mindfulness. We're still getting great chats from Special Olympics, Soapbook, and fitness. That's beautiful. So when we pause and we relax and we are curious about what's here, we notice so many things that we can feel grateful for. And that happiness, that contentment, really is one of those positive emotions we talked about before, isn't it? And it really helps us to be at our best when we feel happy and contented with all of the things that we have to be grateful for. So that's a great benefit of mindfulness. Another benefit is that sometimes we can treat ourselves with, when we notice we're not feeling happy, we can learn how to offer ourselves some encouragement or some tenderness. I'm going to show a slide here. Let me do that. So these are some of the benefits of mindfulness. We can learn to be more patient. We can be aware of ourselves and we can learn how to be grateful. And we can also learn to have, oops, what's happened here? I've lost control of my screen. Okay, so another thing that can happen when we feel mindful is we can learn how to be kind to ourselves. We can learn how to see ourselves just like we are. Not perfect, but beautiful. And we can give ourselves encouragement. We call that self-compassion, but treating ourselves like we're a best friend. So how might we do that, right? How do we treat ourselves like we're our own best friend? What could we do? We could offer ourselves encouragement when things don't go well, right? We could say to ourselves, good try. You know, at least you got out there and tried your best. Or you might tell yourself, great effort. Next time, what can I learn from this experience? So next time I can do even better, right? So self-compassion is another benefit of mindfulness. We can learn and we can practice it. We can practice being a friend to ourselves. How does that sound? That sounds good to me too. Yeah. Anybody have a question about how to be a friend to yourself? How would we do that? You can unmute folks, maybe if they want to respond.
By taking care of yourself.
By taking care. And how would you take care of yourself?
Right, and healthy. Exercising.
Say that one more time so I can hear you.
By eating right, like we have a Fit 5, where we eat like 5 fruits and veggies a day, drink 5 bottles of water a day, and exercise 5 times a week.
Great. So taking care of your diet and exercise is a way you can take care of yourself. Wonderful.
How about
Mark,
staying healthy?
Mark, are you raising your hand? No. Okay. Jerry is though. Gerald, what would you like to say?
Go take a shower.
Okay. Great. Dominique, you have your hand up?
Staying healthy.
Staying healthy. And how would you keep yourself healthy?
By taking meds. If you're sick, stay home.
Good idea. Good idea. Jennifer, what did you want to say? How can you take care of yourself?
Getting enough rest.
Good idea. Right. And how about when things don't go so well for yourselves? How can you be a good friend to yourself?
Do not put yourself down.
Good idea, Christine. What about you, Zachary? What do you do when things don't go your way?
You can talk to a friend.
Talk to a friend. What a good idea. What about you,
I take
Kim?
notes.
What about you, Kim?
First, I want to say sorry to whoever I cut off first. It sounds like we were thinking the same thing.
Oh, that's okay. Go ahead.
Play game.
Another thing we can do is, if you have a pet, cuddle with him, or if he's not much of a cuddler, pet him.
These are great ideas. I love them. Thank you. Praying. Zachary offered praying. Thank you very much, Zachary. Staying positive, being optimistic. You guys know an awful lot about taking good care of yourselves. I'm so impressed.
I also do.
You guys are experts.
I have one.
Stop the stinking thinking. I love that.
What's that?
That's just great. So,
I have one too.
Yes, let me hear, Sheena. Go ahead.
I think it's best to take care of yourself. Make sure you drink a lot of water and keep yourself in hydration.
Okay, great.
I have one.
Yes. Go ahead.
I see you smiling.
I can what about playing games?
Playing games, good idea. Keeping yourself occupied. Lovely.
Listen to music.
You guys have a lot of good ideas.
Yeah.
Jerry, what's your idea, Jerry?
Go play the video games.
Play video games, okay. And Tari, what's your idea?
Keep in touch with the social media like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Also, you can keep in touch with Zoom or FaceTime.
Right. Okay. Great. So we can mute everyone. I think so. Thank you for all of that. You guys really know an awful lot about taking care of yourself. So one of the things that mindfulness helps us to do is to pause, right? Then relax the body and the mind. Be curious about what's here right now. And then what is here that we might be able to appreciate or be grateful for. And then what is it that we might need that we could make ourselves feel better? Like if I'm bored, how can I take care of myself? If I'm cold or hungry, how can I take care of myself best right now? So these are the gifts of mindfulness. So a couple of things about practicing mindfulness. So mindfulness is something you can set aside time to practice. Just like you would practice any skill that you guys do with your athletics. You know, when you practice bowling or you practice powerlifting, you can practice mindfulness too. And so how do you practice that? How do you practice mindfulness? Well, you set aside a little bit of time, maybe 5 minutes or so, or 10 minutes, maybe even 15 minutes. Somebody says turning off their electronics is another way to take care of. That's a good idea, Chloe. Thank you for that. So knowing what you need, and so slowing down, pausing and relaxing and practicing. So I think I'm going to guide you right now in a short mindfulness exercise, okay? So everybody come into a seat, sitting down if you're comfortable sitting, and bringing your hands in your lap if you're comfortable with that, or just making yourself comfortable. And when we practice mindfulness, we want to be comfortable, but we want to also be alert so we don't fall asleep. We just want to be relaxed and alert. It's a funny combination. Sometimes when we're relaxed, we fall asleep, and when we're alert, we feel nervous. So we want to be relaxed and alert. So we're going to come to a seated position and just begin by relaxing the body. So remember all of those places that we can sometimes hold tension in the hands or the face or the chest or the jaw. And just relaxing wherever it is you feel, maybe in the shoulders and the neck, just beginning to invite in some relaxation into the body. And maybe putting your hand on your belly and watching the breath come and go. So let's put our hands on at least one hand on the belly if you're able. And feeling the breath coming and going in the body. You might also be listening to the breath. Can you hear it? Can you notice what happens in the belly as you breathe in? And what happens in the belly when you breathe out? Just noticing the breath coming and going. Maybe taking another minute of just noticing the breath. And then maybe noticing also sound in the room. So breathing, noticing the breathing, listening to the room, noticing any sensations in the body. Just being curious about what is here right now. Letting go of worry. Just letting yourself be right here with my voice and your breath. And maybe noticing something that you feel grateful for. And that is all that there is to it, right? So we took 3 minutes or so and we paid attention to our breath, first to our body, then to our breath, then to our body and our breath, and then sound, just paying attention with curiosity to what's here. So that is a mindfulness exercise. Is there anybody here that thinks they can't do that? Let me see a hand. Now that you've done it, can everybody do that? Okay, great. I'm glad to know that. Glad to know that. So mindfulness is something we can practice every day for just a few moments, maybe 5 minutes. And sometimes it's really easy to practice. It's just hard to remember to practice. So sometimes we can think about things to remind us to practice. And what might those things be? Well, we can decide we're going to be mindful before we take the first bite of food that we're going to eat. That would be a good moment to be mindful. Or we could decide we're going to be mindful the first thing we do when we wake up in the morning, before we even get out of bed. We could take just 5 minutes to listen to the sounds in the house and listen to our breath and feel our body and be curious about what's here, what we feel grateful for. Or we could do the same thing just right before we go to bed each night. Just pausing and relaxing, paying attention to, with curiosity, to what is here in the present moment. So it's easy to be mindful. It's just kind of hard to remember to be mindful. So maybe you guys have some ideas about what you could do, something you do every day that could be your reminder to be mindful for just a few moments. So let's unmute the group, Kristen, and see, or if you can put your answer in a chat. Let me know what kind of ideas you have about when you could remember to be mindful. Dominique, what do you think?
Be mindful when you take your meds.
Beautiful idea. Anybody who's taking medicines every day, that's a wonderful moment to be mindful. Who else has an idea?
Be mindful with staff, your staff, be nice to your staff.
Okay, good idea. Gerald, did you have an idea about when you might remember to be mindful?
Yes. There's my mindful while we go outside and go do exercises.
It's great to be mindful when you go outside. I love that. When I go out with my dog, a lot, many times a day, I try to use that moment to just notice how beautiful it is outside, notice the smells, and notice the sights. That's a beautiful time to be mindful. How about you, Chloe? When do you think you might be mindful?
I'll be mindful about what I take in to eat, because I'm going through a food addiction and it's really bad. So I've been reminding myself, what should I do and what should I take to do while I have my food addiction, because I go for water 24/7 because it's really good to have empty calories of water and drink it every day.
It's a really good idea. Thank you. Zachary, what's your idea about when are you going to be mindful?
When you say your prayers every day.
When you say your prayers, that is such a great time to be mindful, because when we're quiet and we listen deeply, it really helps us to pray. It's a great time for those of us who like to pray, that's a beautiful time to be mindful. Who else has an idea about when they could be mindful? How about you, Kendall?
I'd be mindful when you eat with your family and stuff.
That's a wonderful time to pause and relax and notice what's here and notice what you might feel grateful for. Does anybody else have an idea?
To be mindful to your parents.
Okay.
Be mindful of your roommates.
Wonderful. And Catherine, you have an idea. What's your idea about?
Be mindful when somebody else is talking.
Oh, did you hear what Catherine just said? Because that is so brilliant. It really bears repetition. Catherine, thank you. That was brilliant. Be mindful when someone else is talking. Because how else can we understand or listen if we're not paying attention? Oh, I think that's brilliant. Well, we're running out of time, so I want to be open. Are there any questions for me before we close tonight?
It will help with your anxiety.
Yes, it does help with your anxiety, because if you practice being mindful, it helps us to calm down and feel relaxed. Terry, do you have a question?
Yeah, being mindful is to stay healthy and stay active before the competition resumes.
That's great. That's great.
And be mindful in manners.
In your manners too. Thank you. I'm glad you brought that up, because we're all athletes here and we can use our mindfulness before we compete. That's great.
Hey, Sue, did you know I'm the healthy fitness coordinator?
I didn't. That's wonderful.
For Special Olympics for Onstung, Indiana County. I just went through my class and I graduated.
That's great. Great, great.
I'm trying to help my athletes to eat more healthy things, but they don't want to listen from me, so they're going to listen from the coach.
Very good. So are there any other questions for me before we close tonight?
Jennifer, I think you might have a question or two. Do you want to ask one of your questions to Dr. Wiley?
Hold on, I was muted. Jeez.
That's okay. Yep, just pick one of your questions and ask her.
How can I teach others about mindfulness?
That is such a great question, Jennifer. Thank you. So there's 3 ways to remember, 3 steps to remember to be mindful. Let me see everybody hold up 3 fingers if you can. Okay. The first step is to pause, because you can't be mindful if you're running around. So teach yourself or your friend to pause. The second is to relax. So relaxing the body, relaxing the mind. So if you're worried, letting go of worry. If you're tense, letting go of tension. If you're striving, letting go of striving. That's 2, to relax. And then the third is to just notice what's here. What's here? Pausing, relaxing, and noticing. That's how you can teach your friend to be mindful. That's a beautiful question. Thank you so much for that.
Jennifer, do you want to ask any others as well? I think you had a couple others. Do you want to ask another one?
Oh, jeez. Sorry. How can I make the environment around me less stressful?
Well, we can't really make the environment less stressful.
Okay.
What mindfulness is about is how we deal with the stress, right? Remember, we talked about good stress and bad stress, and we talked about imagined stress. So sometimes we imagine things to be worse than they are, or we blame ourselves. We talked a little bit about that. But the environment, it can always be challenging. It's really how we deal with it. And that's where mindfulness can help us.
Dr. Wiley, we had one more question. How can mindfulness make me a better person or a better athlete?
Okay, so I'm really glad you asked that question, because I've been practicing mindfulness for a long time now, about 20 years. And I can tell you that for me, the greatest gift of mindfulness is it helps me to be the person that I want to be. You know, sometimes we're not exactly the way we want to be. Sometimes we get angry, sometimes we get irritable, sometimes we lose our patience, sometimes we judge ourselves or we judge others. But when I practice mindfulness, it helps me to be more of the person that I want to be. And that in turn helps me to bring more joy into the world. So that's how mindfulness helps you to be a better person. It helps you to calm down and draw from the best parts of yourself.
Doctor,
Wonderful.
does mindfulness ever become second nature to people?
We get better and better at it as we practice. We learn to pause and relax and notice over and over and over again. And it helps to be reminded by your friends when to be mindful. So one thing you can do for each other is to remind each other to be mindful.
That's a good idea. You could use that at all staff meetings.
Right, right.
Hello?
Hello?
Hi, I was gonna say, do you work on mindfulness? Like, did you teach others mindfulness every day?
I'm not sure if I understand your question, but I've been teaching people mindfulness for 20 years.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you for that question. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, if there's no more questions, we'll wrap up.
Well, I want to tell you all, I've enjoyed meeting you all so much. And you're all terrific athletes and terrific people. And I wish you lots of luck and mindfulness.
I have a question.
2021.
I have a question.
Yes, one more question, Regina.
My name is not Regina.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Are you an Eckhart Tolle fan?
I think that was a very powerful book. That's The Power of Now. Yes, it's a wonderful, wonderful idea.
Got a couple books. Yeah. Yeah. what you are talking about is very along the lines of what he
exactly. Eckhart Tolle was talking a lot about mindfulness. Yes, he was.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Well,
wonderful. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Wiley. Thank you so much for helping us all de-stress and learn about mindfulness and how we can use it in our daily lives. Back to you, Jennifer.
Let's give everybody a hand for all their mindfulness practice tonight. Everybody did great. Thank you so much.
This concludes our Team Tuesday webinar. Our next one will be on Tuesday, January 19th at 7 o'clock. And in honor of the new year, we'll feature a goal-setting presentation to help you navigate your New Year's resolution and embody. New year, new year. As a reminder, this webinar are recorded and posted to the SOPA YouTube channel.
Thank you to everyone for joining our webinar tonight. We hope you enjoyed our guest speaker. Thank you again, Dr. Wiley, and a special thank you to Jennifer for helping us lead this webinar tonight.
We will see you all again next month. Until then, stay healthy and stay safe.